Hello horror fans, and welcome to another edition of Silver Screams. Tonight we are talking about the season finale of MTV Scream. And wow, that was a thing.
Did anyone die in this finale aside from board shorts? Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
The killer.
I kind of already...
The killer.
The killer. I was thinking more in terms of the sheriff, but I already kind of...
Oh yeah,
I already kind of mentally marked him off at the end of last episode, like, well, he's fucked.
Yeah, Deputy Dewey didn't make it out of this one.
Because he's not a deputy anymore.
Well, no, he was a sheriff.
No, I know.
But, so, the sheriff died in a rather gruesome way. Wow, that was dark.
Disemboweled.
Yeah, duct tape. Oh man, that was dark.
Was it duct tape?
Well, yeah, he was duct taped to the tree, and that was what was keeping everything together.
Oh, Lord.
And so when she was untying him, that's when everything spilled out, so to speak. Man.
Yeah, that really turned into Saw right there. That was... We definitely had some massive Saw moments in this franchise.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's not... You're right, the season, I misspoke. And I wonder if it's not trying to keep up with the people who would watch this kind of show, because the target demographic is one who at this point has most likely seen Saw and might be expecting some form of torture porn. So I wonder if those very unscream-like deaths are an attempt to keep up with that sort of thing.
I think in part it's acknowledging that subgenre, the whole torture porn thing. It's acknowledging it without having to get too far into it.
I don't know. They split a guy in half with farm equipment. That's pretty.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad, but the Saw movies themselves get way worse.
Oh well, yeah.
So it's a way to kind of acknowledge that while like still only kind of dipping your toes into it, which thank God I do not like Scream. Because it's, you know, I don't like Scream for that reason. I dislike many of the Saw movies for that very reason. I don't watch Hostel. I don't watch any of that crap because it's just torture porn. It's shock value for the sake of shock value. It's not good storytelling.
Definitely saw a clip of Hostel and went, wow!
Yeah, no.
You know which one I'm talking about. So having that show up in Scream, that was my stomach actually did flip for that one and kind of went, ugh, nope, I did not want that.
For me, in addition to kind of acknowledging that like I said, subgenre, it's actually strangely enough kind of a progression of the series itself, because if you've noticed, every incarnation of Scream got a little bit more violent. With like actual intestines being shown in the fourth one, which that was the most gore I had ever seen.
I don't remember that. Which one was that?
That was when the girl gets killed in her bedroom while...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that is a thing that happens, and like Scream 2 was more gory than Scream 1. Scream 3 was like whatever. I don't watch that one as frequently, so I'll admit it's not.
We just watched 10 episodes of it.
We really did. So let's talk about this, because we have the scene. It's kind of broken up into, I guess, 3 parts. There's the part where they're looking for the sheriff. There's the party at Brooke's house, and then there's meeting up with the killer at the very end in our epilogue. So yeah, we talked a little bit about the sheriff and how like the whole reasoning for this was that it was to hit Daisy, less of hitting Emma and more of hitting Daisy. Which I'll be honest, I didn't think he was gonna die. I thought it was gonna be one of those things where they would, you know, come to the rescue. Like,
I've already written him off.
I thought it was gonna count as a win. Because, well, again, because Dewey didn't die in the series. And so I had kind of I hadn't written him off yet, but he is a parent in a scary movie, so I probably should have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was counting Deputy Dewey and Gale Weathers as people who were safe, and they threw me for a loop.
Respectively, they were.
And I was wrong on both counts.
Dead and murderer.
And murderer. And we'll talk about that. Should we just talk about that? What we think of Piper being the killer?
I didn't see it coming, but I haven't exactly hit the theory books super hard with this series. I was just kind of, oh, this is fun. Oh, this is crazy. Oh, I bet it's that guy.
You were just
I bet it's that person.
popcorn.gifting, right?
Yeah, pretty much. This whole thing has just been popcorn.gif for me, and I will gladly talk about theories, but I wasn't going out of my way to be like, who is it? This was not Five Nights at Freddy's for me. This was not, I need the story and I need it now. This was like, oh, this is fun. Oh, that was not fun. Okay, the rest of it's fun.
For me, I do what I always do when it comes to murder mysteries, is I spend so much time pointing my finger at everybody that I always miss the obvious signs of who it is.
Well, and I'm always the red herrings every single time. I do.
I don't necessarily fall for them, but I spend so much time going, is this a thing or is this a red herring? And I spend so much time focusing on that, I'm missing the actual clues. Like, I should have picked up right away that Piper said her dad was murdered, and I believe, like, we acknowledged that when it happened, but then immediately forgot about it. So the second we find out that Brandon James had a child, that should have been a huge, like, it's Piper. We should have picked up on that right away, and we didn't.
Honestly, I think that they could get away with that because it's a series and because it's spaced out. We are kind of a binge-watching culture, but it takes a certain kind of person and someone with a certain amount of free time on a weekday to go, okay, the season finale is tonight. Let's rewatch the entire season in preparation. Like, that is something I would do for Red versus Blue, but that entire season's going to take me 65 minutes with ads to get through until we hit the last episode.
65 minutes is the first episode of this.
Yeah, as opposed to 9 hours or 8 hours in ad time, whatever. But someone who had sat down and watched the entire series, and when people who had not watched the series before sit down on Netflix or Hulu or wherever the heck it winds up, because it will wind up somewhere, and sit down and watch it, they will probably be, if they've not been spoiled, they'll probably be able to pick it out much more easily because Brandon James had a kid. Oh, you know, 3 hours ago we found out that, and
yeah, as opposed to 3 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, because a lot happens in 3 weeks, but 3 hours of binge watching, it's a lot easier to put it together when it's condensed.
Very
so they're
true.
able to throw out blatant hints like that the movies couldn't afford to give out, because they have that time and because they have so much time between when episodes air. If this had been a movie and that had been one of the clues, we would have all known within the first 30 minutes.
So it's like, oh, it's her.
Yeah. Yeah. So because of the medium, you are able to spread things out and to lay out much more obvious clues that people will not necessarily remember week to week unless they are really making an effort of keeping track of everything happening on the series.
I.e. Tumblr, I suppose.
Evidently Tumblr had a pretty good theory about putting the pieces together because her dad was dead and because she changed her story on who came to visit Grandma James every single time.
And we took her at
face value when she came back and said, oh, I showed some pictures, and she pointed to Kieran. We just were like, okay, you're the Gale Weathers. It really screwed with our expectations.
It really did, because I was not expecting our Gale Weathers to be our murderer. That I will admit that that threw me for a loop, and I will say that even for all of my, I don't know, who knows, she could be the killer. I don't think she's the killer, but she could be. For all of that, I really didn't think she was. And I will say that prior to sitting down to watch the episode, I did get slightly spoiled because of the MTV Twitter, which I'm going to have to stop following you guys.
When you live tweet, it sucks.
Yeah, I follow MTV Scream on Twitter, and so they live tweet along with their episodes, but they do it for the East Coast. We're on the West Coast, so I was just taking a gander at Twitter, not even thinking about it, and I see a GIF of Piper pulling off the mask, and I managed to throw my, literally throw my phone away.
I was sitting there, I was in the middle of a conversation and just like, Megan?
Literally, because the mask only got about halfway up, so I had seen enough to know that it was a girl, but I couldn't tell who, but I was like, that's more information than I wanted to know. So the second Piper went missing, I started going,
No, and I spent the whole time going, it's totally this guy. It's totally this guy. It's whole.
No, it wasn't.
Okay, so he's just a dick. Good to know. Good to know.
Can we...
Also, teenagers are stupid. Horror movie teenagers are stupid. I feel like and I just scared the shit out of my cat.
I was really concerned
She's
for a
got
minute
the
that she's
zoomies today. She went through the tripod. She's like, well, that episode sure got interrupted.
I will
Thank
say,
you,
this episode had probably more jump scares than any other episode we've seen this season. Just everybody at the party running away when they found Board Shorts dead.
I felt so bad for that guy.
Yeah, first he gets basically promised sex, and then gets told, no, you go in there, which Audrey directed him that way.
That's true.
We're gonna have to. We'll talk about that when we get to the end.
Again, when you rewatch a series.
Yeah, she directed him that way, but just everybody popping out of nowhere. Jake, surprising her in the wine cellar. Seth coming back to her house after all of the kids have split. The killer popping up behind Audrey and then knocking her out. Kieran at the window. The killer running after Brooke when she's all alone and locking her in the same ice chest her father stashed a body in.
Yeah, that's a little messed up.
Dude.
She went in there to hide, and on one hand it's like, okay, I get it if this is a no way in, no way out scenario, and on the other hand it's like, you basically locked yourself in a coffin. Way to be.
I mean,
way to be.
She's alive.
That's true. It's more than you can say for half the people in this series at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. But she's alive, and I mean, the only other way she would have gotten out of it is if she could have used something in that garage as a weapon and been able to use it effectively.
I feel like she's not the type to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So that was literally her only option. Unless she wanted to just stand there behind the door and surprise the killer by like hitting him with it or something. But even that's a gamble. No matter what you're doing in this scenario, it's a gamble at best.
Yeah.
So I don't really blame her too much on that one. It did suck when he locked it and then plugged it back in. It's like,
yeah,
man, that sucks. She's like, I hate this freezer. It was a hoot. But yeah, let's talk about Jake a little bit, because the two of them, for the majority of this episode, were kind of like going back and forth trying to make the other one jealous.
Which is essentially the root of my horror movie teenagers are stupid comment.
And he admitted to being the one to spy on her, but in his mind it was because somebody put the malware back on her computer and he was trying to find out who.
And he also wanted to look her boobs.
Mostly that, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was probably like, score! The
timing is perfect.
At least he admits that he knows he's a jackass. I still don't trust him, because at the end of the episode we see him deleting all the files on his computer, but we don't actually see him hit accept.
See, the thing is, he drags them into the recycle bin and then sits back all happy. And
no, he doesn't look happy. He looks kind of like, I don't know.
Point being, this is, again, and we keep coming back to this is the show that's like, yeah, malware can totally hack into people's phones and change their settings and en masse and at will, and the same program that, guys, it doesn't work that way. And 700 views on a video is viral, and this is a show that has a peripheral understanding of technology. So it's entirely possible that this is a show that's like, he put it in the recycle bin, it's gone forever, yay!
No, that wasn't the case. He put it over to the recycle bin, and then the window asking him if he wanted to permanently delete came up.
I did not see that.
No, you didn't.
Well, there goes that point.
But the point is that we didn't see him permanently delete things.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing to say that there's not a backup of this stuff somewhere, because I believe Noah said at one point that Nina did back up her stuff to the cloud at one point. So there's absolutely nothing to say that all that information's gone for good. So your point is absolutely correct. It's not necessarily gone for good. Nina and Tyler presumably had a lot of secrets since they were blackmailing people. and those are probably secrets that are going to come back to bite people in season 2. So I do want to say that whole pool sequence was really cool, especially when Seth is trying to get into Brooke's house and the lights go off behind him just as he's stepping backwards.
Yeah.
That was pretty great. Because you could easily write that off of, oh, the killer got him, or, oh, that's, you know, him stepping into the shadows, that's when he dons the mask.
I was expecting the lights to come back up and to see him taped to a chair. Honestly.
Although that doesn't mean you're innocent either.
No, that's also true.
Oh, Lord. Poor Steve. But, I will say, I mean, he's still not a good guy. He's still a creepy guy who was a suspect in a murder case, and he's still, you know, he's obviously clear of this one. That doesn't mean he's a good guy. He could still very much be a bad guy.
Oh, yeah.
So not to write him off too soon. And then Kieran finding out about his dad. Like, that is harsh. Because he and Emma left on pretty bad terms at the dance because she kind of accused him
of murder.
Being a murderer. And then when he meets back up with them, you know, he's clearly still angry about it. But, man.
Just the comment about when my dad became my legal guardian again, there was a mountain of paperwork. It's in the house. I can show it to you, but I'm pretty sure he's the only dad I've got. And she's just like, oh, right, you don't know.
Only one you had, guy.
Past tense.
Only one you had.
Past tense. You don't got him anymore.
No. But I do want to take this moment to say thank you, MTV. Thank you for not making it incest. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot say thank you enough for not making it incest. I'm very happy with you. I would hug you if I could, but I can't, so I'm just going to do this little heart thing. Thank you for, yeah, thank you very, 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 very much for not making it incest. I am so happy.
I feel like they made it even by tweeting that massive spoiler.
Yeah.
You don't know that in anything.
But you know what? They did not throw incest into my show, so I'm willing to forgive a lot. Spoilers are really tough, but there was no incest in this show, so thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, MTV. Much, much appreciated. So
that happened, that poor bastard.
Do we want to talk about, let's talk about Piper. Let's talk about her being the killer, because we were talking about this before we started taping, but I swear to God, every time anybody takes on the mask of Ghostface, doesn't matter what their sex is, what their motivation is, how old they are, the second they take off that mask, they are the same.
Sydney.
They are the same person. And I don't know if this is every subsequent actor after the first two just trying to imitate those performances, or if that's just the way that people who would put on a mask and kill people would act in this
Or if
world.
the mask is possessed.
Like it is a haunted mask scenario?
No, I don't know.
Like ghost, like literally ghost face?
It just infects the mind. Hello, Sydney.
It just brings out everyone's negative feelings and forces them to do really weird and terrible things.
And it includes the head tilt and the very odd use of words and
the cleaning the knife, like one feels, yeah, just like that. But so the second she takes off the mask, and it's so funny because they all have this swagger. They all have this swagger, and they all start monologuing, and they're all just chewing the scenery as much as they can. It is always a blast to watch, but it doesn't matter how they acted beforehand. They always act the same the second the mask comes off. It's hilarious. It's really funny.
That mask is infected.
It's really funny, but it's just kind of funny because it's like that is the real person, and the thing that you saw before was an act. It was the mask.
See, and now I'm wondering about Piper and just her backstory, I guess. How did she find out that she was Brandon James's kid, and how did, like, where did any of this come from? And she was adopted. And I
so what kind of home did she grow up in?
Exactly.
Because
either it wasn't great and this happened, or it was absolutely fine and she just, I don't know, got a bee in her bonnet about it and went up the wall. But she did make a comment about Emma having the perfect life.
What happened in Scream 3 was that we don't know a ton about this guy's backstory either, but we know that he knew he was, he knew he was abandoned, and that he was searching for his parents, and that when he found Maureen, she rejected him. So it was a lifelong search kind of thing, that the second he finally thought he found his home, he was rejected by his mother, and he saw that he had been replaced. That he had searched his whole life to obtain something and was rejected, and Sydney lived in blissful ignorance. She had a happy relationship with her mother and father, and he had nothing. When he tried, he was turned away.
But in this one, it wasn't like she was abandoned by the side of the road or anything. There was an adoption.
She was adopted.
Like, it was confirmed adopted. So did she go up the wall about being adopted, or did it? I feel like I wanted 10 or 15 minutes or just something
to find out a little bit more about her backstory.
Show us her backstory. Give us a little online one-off. I don't care. I want to know why, because she's adopted and that makes her evil is stupid and dumb and not at all the case. So
that's kind of the same problem that I have with Scream 3, in that, like, this kid was a rape baby. That makes him the villain now. And it's the same with Nightmare on Elm Street, because it's the same thing. This person got raped and now we have Freddy Krueger. It's like, I don't quite know what kind of moral you're pushing. I don't really know what to make of that.
See, now, if Freddy Krueger only killed rapists...
No.
I realize that's not the case.
No.
I'm saying if you're going to push a moral, that's what you go with.
Yeah, so, again, I don't quite get it. I don't know if
the moral for that is don't ever say.
I don't know if that's pushing the message of abortion is the answer, because I don't think I'm super comfortable with that moral.
I don't think it's a moral at all, and that's the problem. I think it's a continued stereotype where this bad thing happened, so only bad things can come of it, so obviously if this is the case, then this must also be the case, and I'm not sure if fallacy is the correct term for that, but it's bullshit and it needs to stop.
It's one of those things where, the backstory is supposed to in some way make up for what's going on, I think, or explain it, and it's like, no, people are still responsible for their own choices, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but my guess in terms of Piper is that it was something kind of similar, where it's either she knew she was adopted or it was kept a secret from her and she found out she was adopted, and either way, when she was told, she went on a search for the truth. And what she found was the story of a poor boy who was treated very cruelly and then murdered for it, for not having done anything wrong. And her mother, in her eyes, abandoning her and then moving on and pretending like she had a perfect life. That is my guess.
And instead of attempting to talk to Mom, we're just going to murder a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
That's the answer.
And the other thing is, I guess it's just her being a journalist. But, like, you think it's also possible that she looked up, she did a little bit of reading on Emma before all of this started and saw what a kind of catty crowd Emma ran with. And, probably in her eyes, she's like, oh my gosh, you are even worse than your mother. Your mother abandoned me, let everybody push that poor boy around, and then abandoned me. You are actively hurting other people. So, as we kind of see, she's hanging out with Nina at the very beginning. So, and we also don't know how long she's been watching Emma and her family. What is your
My cat has the zoomies, so if you kind of hear what's going on, she's been running up and down the hallway like a crazy thing.
Super distracting. Anyway,
well, we did just watch a horror show, and we were talking about horror movies, and I mean, my cat's kind of...
But you're right. There are pieces missing, and I'm wondering if Audrey isn't the one to fill in the gaps there. Because we see in the epilogue, first of all, it was really cool to see Audrey kind of come to the rescue up until this kind of reveal, where you see that she had had lettered correspondence with Piper for who knows how long.
And that she either received evidence out of the evidence box we saw getting broken into, or that she was the one who broke into it. I'm betting on the latter since she lives in the town.
Yeah, and she was really fascinated with the story of Brandon James. And the main question here is whether or not Audrey really was her accomplice, if this series is just throwing another red herring at us, if she was a partial accomplice but didn't know the end game, like just thought Piper was a journalist.
But she was the person who assaulted them. Or it's implying heavily that she was the person who
assaulted them when Piper and Will were attacked, who dragged Will off after, what, stabbing him? Yeah.
And somehow missing all of the vital organs? Was that Will or was that the other?
That was Will. But it does, again, this is why it would lend itself to either going back and rewatching every episode twice as we're going through, or going back and rewatching now that we're done, which I'll probably do when the series hits Netflix or
Hulu or wherever the heck it
DVD
goes.
or whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Because it'll go somewhere.
Because I do want to go back and put the pieces together and see what I can derive from her relationship with Audrey, because Audrey has been one of the coolest people around this entire season. And even seeing her with Brooke earlier in this episode, it's like, oh, look at that, friendship.
Character development. And you ruined it.
And she sent board shorts to his death. And
again, you have to wonder if she was the accomplice. How much did she know? Because that also makes her complicit
in Rachel's murder. What we thought was a universal voice translator, or because there is one, what we thought was the universal voice translator might have in fact just been her voice, which is awful.
I'm just making sure you're checking your phone. Oh, no reason.
And yeah, and again, if it was her, then she's complicit in Rachel's murder. Yeah, and that's heartbreaking to think about.
Messed up.
Because that has been her defining, like, motivation this entire season, was just trying to figure out what happened to Rachel and why. And yeah, it's just, it could be that she's not the accomplice, or it could be she's a stew and Rachel was her Tatum. And it was something she was willing to give up, which again is pretty awful. What does that say about Audrey if she really is? And again, the fact that we've been renewed for a season 2 and that we're getting season 2, I feel obviously like this isn't the end of the story. Scream presents us something at face value. I'm not going to trust it.
Yeah, honestly, I would love to see the second season be different city, different people, different set of murders. As much fun as these characters were, I'd love to see them start with someone else. And then potentially have some of these characters, there's someone's cousin, they're coming in for a visit, there's a school trip, whatever, and have them in and out for a few episodes. But I honestly think that Scream should do what Heroes should have done and start fresh. Because otherwise, we as an audience go into this going, someone's an accomplice. And we've murdered a lot of people and haven't left a whole lot of them behind. So you're starting a second season with half a cast.
See, it would have been an okay ending if we didn't get renewed. It would have been actually like a good OMG ending if like Audrey was our accomplice and she's now gotten away with murder.
We can still kind of do that if they start fresh next season.
They're not going to.
Yeah, I know.
And on the one hand, I appreciate what you say, and I agree to it to a certain extent.
On the other hand, you're really super wrong.
On the other hand, we have an official cliffhanger, which means I want to see this wrapped up. I really do. I want all the pieces to fall into place, but you're right. You can only do that for so many seasons before it becomes a big, convoluted mess.
I used Heroes as an example before, and it's still relevant.
So I'm okay with it being one more season of these same characters and piecing everything together, but unless you have a multiple season plan, like a plan in place right now, I don't trust that making it up as you go along is gonna fit everything into place.
And it's hard
for multiple seasons.
And it's hard to plan for multiple seasons when you have no guarantee that you're gonna get multiple seasons.
Exactly. So, like I said, had we not gotten a season 2, I would have thought that would be a really dark but good way to end the season.
Oh yeah, because we've never had a killer not get caught.
Exactly. Given that that's not the case, it's like, okay, well, clearly there's more to this story that they have in mind, because I still don't necessarily think that it is 100% Audrey. I think this is another fake out. This is very similar to, look, Kieran's the killer. Kieran's the killer, everybody. Did you see that? Kieran's the killer.
And I'm going to tap dance off stage the other way.
And Seth's the killer. Seth is the, you see the dead cop? Which, how creepy was that scene with the pendant from Emma's dream being stuck in that cop's mouth? Yeah.
Again, it was very, very Saw for the first 15 minutes of this episode.
Very CSI. CSI used to gross my parents out so much, but they kept watching. It was so funny.
Because
so all in all, thoughts on this season as a whole? Because as a whole, I'm very pleased.
Very slow first act. It really did take about 3 episodes or so for me to actually start caring about characters in any capacity whatsoever. And when you've got 24 episodes, fine, okay, but this has 10. So you wasted 30% of your time and gave me a head in a jacuzzi, and that was about it.
A pretty fake looking one too.
Yeah, well, it floated. So it needs, if it's going to do this again for season 2, it needs much tighter writing from the get-go. Having that opening, the opening scene was great, as you do in a Scream movie, but aside from that, it took some time to get going. That said, when it got going, it was a lot of fun to follow. Maybe next time not have a plot lifted almost directly from one of the movies. Because it was extremely Scream 3, and therefore it's like, and this beat, and that beat, and the other beat,
and again, very interesting that that's their choice.
Yeah.
Out of all 3 of them.
I'm guessing they assumed that nobody watched Scream 3.
I suppose.
It's got a reputation.
I suppose, but you know what? They executed it very well. And like I said, like I said last week, it's not that certain beats in Scream 3 aren't inherently bad. It was just poor execution. And by poor execution, I mean a screenwriter that hadn't been working on the others. That hadn't been working on the other films.
That's unhelpful.
Yeah, Kevin Williamson, he wrote Scream 1, 2, and 4. He did not write Scream 3. Scream 3 was a new guy who didn't quite get it. That's why everybody considers 1, 2, and 4 to be the actual trilogy. So yeah, it is interesting that they chose that. But at the same time, they closed the book on it relatively quickly. So I'm wondering, yeah, if we're not going to go off to college next season, if we're not going to focus on sequels, if if it's just going to be more of unraveling the mystery or more blackmail shenanigans, whatever it is.
Piper's podcast friends show up to exact revenge.
I was gonna say I now understand why they weren't releasing the podcast, but I did think it was very fitting that that Noah finish up her show.
Yeah,
just like this of your former host,
who was, by the way, a murderer and is also now super dead. Which, people who are listening are just like, who's this Yahoo? What? Oh my god.
Wait, what? That would be finding out, that would be just like finding out that, like, I believe her name is Sarah Koenig, the woman who did the Serial podcast. That would be like her, you know, basically telling all her listeners, and it was me all along.
By the way, I did it.
Which would be so weird.
And Piper never intended to tell anyone, oh yeah, I did the thing. She just intended to release the story such as it was on her podcast.
Again, not bad at all, because she put herself in a really good position to tell the story she wanted to tell.
Yeah. And people trusted her.
Yeah, because she was an established journalist.
But she was not traditional media.
She was not traditional media. She was left to her own devices, but still widely well known and very well regarded. So, well done, Piper, you murdering psychopath. You monster.
Well done, you murdering psychopath. Well done.
I wish that I could keep up with this show in real time, for one, so I wouldn't get spoiled.
Twitter,
and two, because they actually had an Ask the Killer thing on their Twitter, where they had the actress who played Piper answer questions. So, I mean, makes sense.
And not the writers?
Off the show now. Well, I mean, she's off the show now.
That's true.
She's gone. So, and, you know, it was me the whole time. There's a lot of fun to be had with that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially because the actors themselves didn't know who the killer was going to be, presumably until they pulled her aside and said, hey, by the way, you're going to be the bad guy.
And it makes sense, so they can't give it away.
And right now, they probably are keeping the actress who plays Audrey in the dark as to whether or not she was the other person in the mask, or if she was just, she had another tie to Piper.
I burned some letters.
Who knows? They might be adopted cousins. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know.
They might be adopted cousins.
I don't know. I could not tell you.
Let's,
Anyway, before we go, first of all, again, season just really, really good. Very, very happy with the way it turned out. Can't wait for season 2. We do want to acknowledge that at the beginning of this episode, they dedicated this episode to the memory of Wes Craven. He passed away on Sunday due to brain cancer. He was 76 years old. And I know we've talked a lot about this off camera, but it's a tragedy. He was a very creative, wonderful filmmaker, and anybody who ever worked with him has nothing but nice things to say about working with him. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time. He's created some of my favorite characters of all time. And so hearing that he passed away, it made me really sad. But he has a collective body of work that speaks for itself and will last a long, long time. So, yeah. Thanks. So, yeah, but they dedicated this episode to him, and as well they should, because from what I hear, too, he actually, I know he was an executive producer on the show as well. I don't know how involved he was, but it sounded like they had his blessing, which is hard to get, you know, when you take somebody's baby. And Scream 4 actually was the last film that he directed. So I think it's safe to say that this franchise was near and dear to his heart, because he was a guy who could not only make you scream, but make you laugh. So I think that says a lot about him as well. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to say that he was cool. He was a really, really cool director. And, yeah, I will probably be binge watching a lot of those movies. Yeah, make me feel better. Because, yeah, anytime I have a hard day, I can pop on Scream or Scream 2, even Scream 3 or Scream 4. And
today sucked. Let's watch some teenagers get murdered.
Exactly. So, if nothing else, he made something that can always make me smile. And I will be forever grateful for that. So, do you have anything else you want to say about season 1?
I think you covered it.
Sorry. I do want to say that coming up soon in September, Scream Queens is happening starting September 22nd. I don't know if I'll be able to watch and then record night of because AfterBuzz shows are that night. So I don't know if I'll be like a day behind on the Scream Queen stuff, but I do plan on doing Scream Queen episodes as well. And I mentioned it last time, but if you guys have any suggestions for horror movies that you would like talked about, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Let us know what you thought of season 1. Let us know what you thought of the reveal of Piper as the killer. And let us know what you'd like to have us talk about on Silver Screams next time.
Yeah.
Katie, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at Kiaxet. That's Kiaxet.
And I'm Megan. You can follow me on Twitter at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. Keep up on all the articles I'm writing, all the AfterBuzz shows I'm on, Popcorn's Talk stuff, and Silver Scream updates.
And tell us what your favorite scary movie is.
Yeah, in honor of Wes, everybody, what's your favorite scary movie? Thank you guys so much. We will see you all next time.